Georgia up against Uruguay in in Pool D. Uruguay, I think, would have found themselves a lot of admirers after picking up their win over Fiji. So they're actually third in the pool, still behind Wales and Australia. But I think better than most people expected after one game. Georgia, fifth at the moment, will be looking for a victory here. But interestingly, their record between these countries is relatively even. 3 wins to Georgia, 2 wins to Uruguay. But the span of those results is pretty vast, and the two are the earliest two results. So if you look at the last times the Uruguayans beat the Georgians, it was 2003 and 2004, so quite some time ago. Since then, the last 3 have all been Georgia, and the most recent result was 2015. So last time they met was Georgia 19, Uruguay 10. So maybe not a whole lot between these teams. And the average over those 5 games, the only 5 games they've played, they've only met 5 times, was 17-14 in Georgia's favour. So historically pretty close, but I think a lot of us, maybe myself included, I think definitely myself included, maybe a bit naively underestimated Uruguay going into this competition. Georgia is a team that gets talked up a fair bit, and either way, I think all of us as rugby fans would like to see both these teams do well, so it should be an interesting way to open Sunday's games. I'll put the teams in the descriptions so you guys can have a look. They've kind of gone with very different approaches. The Georgians played on Monday. They played Wales, so not quite a full week's rest for Georgia, but close to it. But still, despite that, interestingly, they've made 12 changes to the team that did lose to Wales. They've brought on the 3 subs from the front row to start in the front row. And Bregvadze is actually going to be captain this week. I think it's his first time captaining Georgia, so he's the hooker. I've seen him play for the Sunwolves, so one of the few Georgians that I would recognise on the street, which is more about me than it is about the Georgians, but hey, that's what it is. They've kept Mikautadze. Konstantine is his first name. That's much easier for me. I need to work on my Georgian pronunciation, definitely. He's in the second row here, keeps his spot, but then Lomidze is joining him. He didn't play last week, so you got one guy who played a full game and one guy who didn't play at all. So I guess it's an interesting mix. The whole back row has been shifted for guys who were on the bench last week. Likewise, 9, but 10 in Abzhandadze. He keeps on his position at 10, so new guy inside him at 9. New winger in Todua on the left wing, new winger on the right wing in Dzneladze. So 2 new wingers. The fullback is brought up from the bench. The centre, Kveseladze, he played, I think, on the wing last week. He's moved into the midfield for this one. And Malaguradze is brought in to 12, having not played last week. So, despite all my poor pronunciation, the main story is the Georgians have made a lot of changes. I guess trying to keep the team fresh and manage them for what are still some very important games to go. And this one is kind of a must-win for them if they are to have any chance to get out of the pool. A long shot, although it may be. They're still going to do everything they can to give themselves the best chance. Karkadze is on the bench for this one, so that's good news for Georgia. They've moved a lot of the guys like Giorgadze to the bench. There's 2 Giorgadze and Giorgadze both moved to the bench from the starting lineup last week. So, lots of changes for Georgia. That's the story. For Uruguay, kind of a different story. They've only made 2 changes to the starting 15, and they played on Wednesday. So for them, it is a legitimate short turnaround. Played on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday rest, game on Sunday. That's incredible. And yet they've only made 2 changes. So you would have expected, kind of like the Russians the other day, that you're playing 2 games in quick succession. That's the time to make the changes. But then maybe in a similar situation to the Russians, if Uruguay are going to get a second win, their best chance probably is against Georgia compared to against Wales or against Australia. So maybe it's best that they kind of go all out earlier to try and get that win. So the only changes, Nieto comes in at number 8, and Rhombus comes in on the tight head. Everyone else is in the same position as they were in the starting 15. There are a handful of changes to the replacements. One of the backup props, Magno, also Dao, and Levas. Yeah, so minimal changes for Uruguay, short turnaround, lots of changes for Georgia on a decent turnaround. So it'll be interesting to see which one of these strategies pays off, because the last time Uruguay played a team which made a bunch of changes, they got a pretty good win, didn't they? So it should be an interesting one. Like I said, they've played the 5 times. Georgia's got the wood over them, the most recent 3. For this one, the bookies are picking Georgia by 17 points, so relatively comfortable. Rugby forecast, the algorithm has it a wee bit closer, but still with Georgia by 12 points. So it'll be interesting to see which one comes true. I'll be interested to see more of the Uruguayans, because, as I said, I don't get a chance to see them very often. Likewise, the Georgians, to be fair. Freitas was a bit of a live wire in that game against Fiji. Made a heap of tackles, was Kveta. So, yeah, I'll be keen to see this one. It's only 2 games on the Sunday. This one is probably going to be seen kind of like a curtain raiser, given that the game after it is that Australia and Wales game. So it's going to be a very big Sunday for Pool D. You guys let me know your thoughts on this one. Do you think the Georgians, with all their changes, will prove too much for Uruguay, or do you think Uruguay can give us another upset despite the short turnaround? But yeah, also any insights onto the players. As you can tell, definitely 2 of the teams that I lack a wee bit of knowledge on. But yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts, and I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.